Fascism is best described as a system of government in which the welfare of the state has been prioritized over all else. In the Psychopath's universe, Sybil provides all semblances of order and structure, and so the AI's welfare is prioritized over all. To confirm this, Psychopath's Japan will be compared to its imperial counterpart, as well as the cultural critic Walter Benjamin's definition of fascism in his essay, The Work of Art in the Age of Mechanical Reproduction, in which he deconstructs the mechanics of fascism based on observations on Nazi Germany. As such, examples of Japanese fascism in the two universes will be identified and confirmed by political theory. A primary aspect of fascism involves the control through aesthetic integration. Benjamin describes this in The Work of Art by explaining, "Fascism sees its salvation in giving these masses not their right, but instead a chance to express themselves." End quote. This public expression, under stately control, becomes channeled into works beneficial to the state. This is clearest in pre-World War II Japan through the strong nationalist spirit, as Japanese politics were aestheticized via military action to the great excitement of the masses, as described by the then young Furusawa Atsuo in Frank Gibney's Senso. Quote, "When Japanese soldiers occupied enemy territory and hoisted the rising sun, the audience applauded loudly, rejoicing in the victory." End quote. In the future of Sybil's Japan, this controlled expression is represented in a more subtle style, but remains active. Consider the Sybil system's intimate access to each Japanese mind. It would not be far to speculate to suggest that Sybil may designate a majority of humans to jobs that guarantee optimal satisfaction, and so gives incentive to workers to express themselves through their labor, thus benefiting the state. Along with this, Sybil also attempts to regulate public emotional expression through the distribution of drugs and therapy. Then consider the overall image of the nation and how the nationalist expression positively inclines the cultural expression towards the state. Benjamin affirmed this through his statement, quote, "The instant the criterion of authenticity ceases to be applicable to artistic production, the total function of art is reversed. Instead of being based on ritual, it begins to be based on another practice, politics." End quote. This describes how originally culturally serving ceremony, such as religious events, becomes turned as a rallying point to the state. Imperial Japan demonstrates this in the articles of its Meiji Constitution, referencing the Japanese emperor. These articles identify the emperor as a sacred figure under Article 3, while also indicating potential legislative power under Article 5, among others. This allows the Japanese spiritual practices to be controlled as another means of expression distributed by the state. In Psychopaths, this manipulation manifests in pop culture aesthetic rather than religion. Consider the holographic aid which assists the protagonist, Akane Sudamori, within her home. Its cute, artistic appearance marks it as a potential result of pop design, and it constantly complements Akane's mental state and offers to supply her with stress-regulating drugs. As such, control of public values is instilled in both incarnations of Japan. Now pay mind to the active search for violent conflict exhibited by both versions of Japan. In context of fascism, Benjamin identifies all efforts to render politics aesthetic culminate in one thing: war. War, and war only, can set a goal for mass movements on the largest scale while respecting the traditional property system." End quote. Though the wars may not be the same in nature, it is important to note that both governments emphasize the importance of standing armed units. In Emperor Hirohito's speech in the aftermath of the Pearl Harbor attack, he mentioned, "Eager for the realization of their inordinate ambition to dominate the Orient, both America and Britain, giving support to the Chongqing regime, have aggravated the disturbances in East Asia. Through this statement, Hirohito took the stance of a defender forced into the role of the aggressor and therefore legitimizing Japanese military action in East Asia. Along with the theme of aggressive defense, the Sybil system of the Psychopath universe deploys the Bureau of Public Safety to apprehend latent criminals, people whose level of stress can be enough to make the AI paranoid for public safety and must therefore be persecuted. This justification for maintained armament allows a nation to defend itself from the external threats and forcefully expand if it feels the need to, but it also allows the state to be prepared for dealing with any internal insurgents as well. This standing force of armed individuals allows the state to brutally impose its dominance and force the populace to fit into the system if needed. According to Benjamin, fascism emulates this mode of enforcement by attempting to, quote, organize the newly created proletarian masses without affecting the property structure which the masses strive to eliminate, end quote. Fascism seeks to free the people from one oppressor in exchange for one more aesthetically pleasing to the masses. In fascist Japan, the original oppressor, as previously identified by Emperor Hirohito, would be the Euro-American influence within the East Asian realm. When the people of Japan cast off this original dominant influence, they adopt their militarist government as the new oppressive figurehead. In Gibney's Senso, activist Iwata Ichi describes how the strain of resisting his homeland's government ultimately left him without power to escape becoming part of its industrial machine. Quote, during my 5 years of opposition struggles, I became weak from insufficient food and repeated torture. After recuperating, I decided to bide my time and wait for the future. I focused all my energies on becoming an electric welder. End quote. Similarly, in Psychopath's dystopic Japan, those resistant to the way of life idealized by Sybil are forced to work for it regardless. Latent criminals are either conscripted into the enforcer branch of the Public Safety Bureau, where they are utilized as attack dogs so their investigator handlers need not worry about damaging their own crime coefficients, or stowed away in permanent holding cells to be used by Sybil as seen fit. The criminally asymptomatic, with their sociopathic characteristics, are harvested so that their brain may be incorporated into the Sybil system's mainframe. Regardless of resistance, the populace are shaped into the pieces of the fascist design. As such, the link between Psychopaths, Imperial Japan, and Walter Benjamin's definition of fascism has been established. Both incarnations of Japan use a combination of controlled expression and politicized culture to dominate the greater masses. Those who resist are, and justifiably so in the eyes of the fascist regime, beaten into the system until they are but a cog or piece within the fascist machine.